We're doing ASMR.
Give it the noises. Give it the noises.
Give it the noises.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That is.
Can I get up?
Oh, yeah.
That'll do it. Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. It is, fourth episode this year.
So.
Fourth episode. Yeah. And it's a good one. We got multi-talented person in the house. Overall, super sweetheart. Very cute. Look at him.
Jesus Christ.
It seems like the proper introduction for like a vocalist for a metal band. I feel like you got to soften them up.
Even the
come
band,
on, all tough guy. You know what I mean?
Even the band will do that. They're like, oh well, we got to baby him, because it's like he's the diva. It's like, no, I'm like, yeah, I'm an asshole, but like it's really not that bad. Come on,
it's not
man.
that bad. No. Anyways, Zalen, I'm gonna mess this up.
Try.
Sig. That's
Yeah.
right. Cigainero. Yeah, I give up.
Cigainero.
Oh my God, yeah, I messed it up twice.
Nobody gets it right. I mean,
Cigainero. Okay, dope. What's going on, Zillian? How you doing?
I'm doing great, baby. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm running on some fumes right now. But
Dog, I feel that. Holy shit!
I wanted to be here. I wanted to do this. I mean, I am home, but
It's still
here
work.
Here with you. You know what I mean? I wanted to do this. Dude, you've been doing a lot lately.
Unfortunately, yes.
But let's see where we want to start. We'll start with how's Dispo been?
So that's been insane.
Yeah.
Going from last year in May was our first show together. We only had one practice prior to that.
One practice? Really?
One practice. That was it.
Oh my God.
And being on this whirlwind type situation where like my first show ever is a sold out show with them at the Rail.
That was right, yeah.
Yeah, it was bonkers. And then going right into other shows that are stuff I've never done before personally. Like, we ended up in San Antonio playing at a car garage.
What?
Yeah, we played some festival, and not to knock the promoters or anything, but we played some festival out in San Antonio, and there was virtually nobody there. We played at like 11 o'clock at night, I think.
Oh my gosh.
They had to actually move old engine blocks just so we had places to park, like that kind of junkyard.
So it's like a legit actual car garage.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was a junkyard, if we're being real. And there were like cows wandering around and shit. It was so
What kind of junkyard? What are they fixing?
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Like, and inside there was a whole quinceañera going on, like full blown. It was some kind of weird event venue tacked onto it, and I don't know. It was strange.
I don't know how they book these things, but
yeah, I don't know. We showed up, we played. It was real weird. Everybody was recovering from a mushroom trip the night before. It was terrible, but
that sounds even worse.
It's been a whole up down thing, but it's been fun. Like we're really coming into our.
I remember seeing that, like literally your first show. It was kind of like sudden how they got. Were you initially like joined officially, or was it just like, hey, can you help us out kind of thing? Was it a little bit in between?
They hit me up and they were like, hey, we have we're looking for a new vocalist, we're going a new direction, try out on this song. I was like, okay, fuck it, because my project had slowed down anyway, so I was like, yeah, why not? I gave them a demo, and they were like, all right, cool, we'll hit you up. We got a couple of other prospects on the line, so let us work with this first, and then we'll go from there. I was like, sure, I don't give a shit, that's fine. They ended up hitting me up, and they were like, hey, we have a show May 20-something, 25th, I think was what the date was. They were like, we have a show in May. Can you be ready by then? And can you learn these songs? And I was like, I mean, I can try, but my real gift is being able to bullshit it. And so I ended up learning their set because it wasn't that terribly long. It was only like 5 songs, I think, because we didn't have much time.
Okay,
being an opener, how it is. And we pulled a practice, and then they had officially brought me in by that show. Okay. So it was like kind of up and down at first. And, they weren't sure what direction they were going to go, who they were going to pick. Then they sort of said, okay, well, you know what? This guy can do all this other stuff. It's probably going to be a good idea to bring him on the team. And then they brought me on, and then we did the one practice, did the one show, and now it's like, all right, we're running it.
And I think like literally, if there was ever any doubt, like that first show was a hell of a first show. First of all, like that's your first show as a vocalist in general.
That was my first show in 4 years.
Because before that was like you would perform. Then Cycles and Circles is where I met you.
And I was guitar and vocals.
Guitar for the vocals for that, yeah. Yes. But this is like as a front man, it's kind of like your first thing. And I didn't make it, but I saw these videos and pictures, and it was just like, this is his first show, and you just were like balls to the wall kind of thing. It's just like, if I'm gonna do this shit, like I'm gonna give it like everything.
Exactly.
You were like what, riding on top of people like in the crowd. I think was that one of the first times they did like their giant like wall of death like shit.
They said it was the biggest one they've ever had at the rail.
Insane to me. Like, because that video, because from the rail club, like, luckily you have that vantage point from the top, and somebody got that video, and I'm just looking at this, and I'm like, the room is split, like, all the way down, like, literally, when that whole, like, little metalcore call out, like, front to back shit, yes, like, down the whole middle, these people were separate, and then, like, the drop hits, and everybody rushed.
It was so fun.
It looked crazy. Fun. It looked insane.
And I've been prepping to be. I've always wanted to be the front man of a project. That's been the problem. Is like nobody was really writing the music that I wanted to hear, so I had to do that. But then I couldn't really bring myself to take a guitar player and be like, "You're going to play what I wrote, and then I'm going to do my thing as vocalist or whatever." Because I wasn't good enough at the time, and B, it just didn't. That was a very I don't know. It feels very narcissistic to do, and I'm already bad enough about that. So it's like I don't want to expand on that and keep building on that. So they hit me up with some of their demos, and I hit them up with some of mine. And it turns out we have like this mutual, like our writing complements each other, and it just works. So it really kind of fell in my lap as an opportunity to be like, all right, well, if this is what you wanted.
Like, here it is.
Step the fuck up. Yeah. Like, put your balls in it,
Because, like, when in Cycles and Circles, like, as it progressed, it ended up being you writing mostly everything, right?
Everything, yeah.
Everything. And you were coming up with some dope-ass shit, and we were just like, and I was like, oh, who's all in that now? It's just like, oh, it's just
like me sitting there jacking myself off, And that's I feel like the whole one-man band thing, it's not as. So I'm not talented at all. I have no inherent talent. It's not a lie because I'm obsessed. That's the biggest factor. I'm obsessed with learning how things work, tinkering, and messing with things. So when you give me enough time, like the last two songs in Cycles and Circles put out were, one of them's called Irrelative and the other one's called Deity. Deity was maybe 4 years old by the time I'd put it out.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. And granted, it was a completely different shape before it was put out. It was a whole, 5.5 minute long song, but I whittled it down to 3 minutes or so and then added a whole bunch of accoutrement to make it zazzy and all that jazz. But I had time to just sit on it and marinate it and work with it and shape it into what it needed to be. And then I was able to put it out at my own pace. Okay. I don't just sit down and write yo, this song is fucking amazing, and then send it out to the world because I'm not that good. But I am obsessed, so I'll keep working at it.
I feel like that's kind of it does kind of put forward in the work that you do where you're really meticulous about this type of shit. Because I remember when you were working on some of the stuff, I think you were just edit after edit after edit, and until you got something that you were like, all right, this is what I'm finally going to put out. And that's kind of makes it difficult to write music.
Exactly.
Because the whole thing about music is you need to be putting out stuff. Otherwise,
people don't care.
No, it doesn't care. It's so easy to fade into irrelevancy or just simple, super easy. You work forever on a project that you put out, let's say an EP or even an album. At this level, you put it out and it's relevant for a month or two, maybe. If you're lucky, because there's so much coming out. There's so much constantly coming out. So you will maybe be that,
flash in the pan.
And then it's gone. Then it's okay, what are you doing now? Do you take another year or two to write something else? and it's kind of hard, and especially hard like during the pandemic and stuff, where that's all you had.
Yes,
all you had was I can release music, and I can't go out and tour or like play music to maintain that relevance, because that's what you would do. Like you write an album, then you'd go tour it, or like get it out to people to where they actually like start learning the songs and this and that. It becomes more interactive. But when you take that away, that's all you had, and if you're not like good enough to put like that music consistently out, or not only that, just the availability of being able to do that, which I think that's something that luckily like you kind of help like bring to that table with them, and like everybody in like that band is pretty good at like recording stuff on air. I talked to Ethan last year, and that's how he's pretty much like we would just send ideas back and forth, and we would just record things like. And he was telling me like how kind of you and Jameson were taking a lot of the leads on writing some of the music, and he was just like, I'm just taking a step back like at this point from this, and you guys were doing most of it. Like,
it's a total like it's a weird dynamic now, going from being totally alone and doing everything to having a team of people that they all have their own specialty for the most part. You know, it's genuinely strange. So Ethan, while he may have taken like a step back from writing, I don't think I've seen anybody work promotion and back end like booking and management like a marionette like he does. Like he's just got it on strings. He's moving it. He's got that's where his mojo is. He's grooving with all that stuff. Yeah. He's so good at it. And then Jameson is full blown like, I didn't realize how fucking good at guitar he was. Yeah. I had no idea. Like the dude is just full on shredder. I saw that. I don't think he got enough like time to like show that off in the older stuff. But then like I finally like heard, I was saving because I'm gonna put something out for actually the single you guys just put out, Tocsin. But I saw that, I was like, what the fuck, is that a solo? And I'm like, oh, that's just badass. I was like, okay, like he can do that, like because he just hasn't like had the time to like show that off. So I like that new direction is allowing him to kind of, he's like, hey, no, I'm fucking shred on this shit too. You know what I mean? That's been the beauty. It's kind of really cool to see that. It's like and then you got Taylor, who bass player. He's that dude's wonderful with his hands. Anything that we need physically done, there's almost a time you don't like. You can't. Ooh. J-O, baby. But he'll pop in and he'll knock shit out. And then Jeff's a bit of a caveman, but he plays the shit out of some drums. Yeah. Like, he hits the fuck out of them. But they all come together to slam out these ideas, and they're open to the ideas. That's the big part, is like, yeah, they were changing completely from Sacrilege, the last single they put out, which is full-blown just deathcore. Yeah. Into, well, maybe not deathcore, but whatever, you genre elitist. It switched the gears straight into like this rock infused thing where we're chipping out 80s levels cheesy solos and stuff like that, and Jameson could really just let it fucking fly. So that's been the fact that they're open to that kind of songwriting has been the best part about it, because we have all kinds of weird shit in the works. Because I think they were good at what they were putting out. You know what I mean? But it's like, I loved when I was talking to Ethan. It's just like, you know what, we did it. Like, we want something. We want to keep doing stuff. And then he showed me a little bit of what you guys are working on, like as far as like last year, what you guys had, and I'm like, oh, like, that's different. Like that's a complete like turn. It's still guiding into what you guys. Sure, I can see you guys making that jump, but that's still a chance on writing something completely new music. It is something you're a fan of, but you guys have been writing this like for a while. You know what I mean? And have been solid, great at it. It's like fucking super good at it. So I'm like, a new direction. I'm like, and part of you has to be like, we're already really good at this. Like, why would we kind of switch up? But that's. Again, I feel like musicians just go through that all the time, like progression, and just like, oh, let me try something different. And I like that, like, because it takes a little bit of bravery, especially like when you're doing so well in a market, you know what I mean? Like in this genre, this style, whatever, you're doing fantastic. And it's like, oh, okay, let's totally switch it up and see what happens, kind of thing. So that's awesome that it's working out between you guys. But the fact that, the band initially like took the decision where we're like, no, we want to do something different. I'm just glad that like they're not scared.
Yeah.
You know, they want to do. We have this snowball effect. It seems it's like every group of friends I have has a snowball effect. Somebody says something real fucking stupid, and it just gains momentum until it becomes a tangible thing. Like we've got a headliner coming up at the Rail Club, and we're gonna do all kinds of batshit crazy stuff.
Oh, so yeah, I was hearing that like literally. You're going through like kind of like the hits of the crazy shit you've done and like adding a bunch of other stuff to like,
anything we can do.
That's one thing that like again, like I feel like that's like that whole like what you were saying like on the back end, like I feel like these are like a bunch of Ethan ideas, but like all these things that they've like done as a band. What like I remember the damn Popeye's chicken sandwich
debacle.
The pillow fights,
pool noodles,
all the pool noodles, yeah, all these like cool like
pyro
things just to make the pyro shit like was crazy. I remember literally being there and like feeling. I was like, "Oh, that feels hot to me." Like, what the fuck does that feel up there?
I wish I'd have been there. That shit would have been so fucking.
That shit looks. That's like then that shit like gets stolen like right away.
Yeah,
fucking
like that day.
It was like I think they used it the one time.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, people were dicks. But I feel like it's cool that it's on both ends. Like they're trying to push the music and also always pushing that performance to like make it the most entertaining. And people always like have like such a fun time at those shows. I know like anytime I like see them, like I'm having a great time.
Before I was in the band, like even when I'd see them, you know, it was always like a thing where I knew I was gonna be entertained.
Yeah,
and that always stood out to me. It was always like, okay, if they're gonna pop in here and if you're gonna pay however much a show happens to be that night, if we're opening for a bigger band, if we're opening for smaller, if we're headlining, if you're gonna pay to see me prostrate my ego on stage and shit like that, I want you to have a show. You know, your hard-earned money should not go to waste on a half-ass stand and jog in place.
Yeah.
Metalcore show, you know, the 2000 Sincor.
Yeah,
give it the shoulders. Like it's like no, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
we're gonna give you a fucking balls to the wall show.
And I think you've definitely like slid right into like their fashion of like playing shows and stuff, where you're just like doing insane shit and again trying to entertain as much as well as like that performance is gonna be like great. Like you're gonna love what you listen to, but you're gonna have just a fun time because that's. To me, what I've been seeing in like live shows and experiences, I go, it's got to be a balance of, yes, I want to hear this music being played, and I'm like, this is cool, but I want to have a fun time while I'm here.
Yes.
So like whatever it is, like I want to see if I see people, you know, fucking playing some heavy ass shit, like yes, I want like the environment. I want them to be like
get nuts.
Yeah, get nuts. And if it's like something else that's a little like softer and like dancey, like last night we had like the Cat Bamboo and like Kurt Travis and a bunch of like
yes.
And I was like, that was fun. People were dancing and this and that. I'm like, that's fun. You know what I mean?
It's
like
a vibe.
Anything to like you go out to have a good time, not just like, you know, sit there always. And I get it. Like I used to be the person just like I just want to sit in the back and listen to this. But then like as I keep going to shows and probably that time that we didn't have them kind of inspired me back. Like, if I'm going out, like I want to have fun. I want to have a fun time. Like, yes. You know what I mean? So whatever I'm listening to, I'm just trying to have a good time.
You should be entertained. I'm sorry. It's still a service industry. It's still, and I know people don't want to look at it like that, especially local musicians. They have that vindictive, like, you do it for the love of the music. Well, yeah, we fucking do. Mm-hmm. And that's why you make yourself more betterer, you know?
more betterer,
to have people come out and like they want to see you because you put on a fucking show.
Yeah,
like all right then, that's part of it. You need to do that. Like shit at the last Chill Sounds and Breakdowns festival, it is what it is.
Oh yeah,
in their garage set that they pulled, like Jesse's just hamming people up the whole fucking time, and they're straight ripping their set, entertaining the fuck out of everybody there. That was so fun.
And that's definitely one of the examples in bands that I'm like, dude, like every time I go see them, they play 100% and people are having like a fun time, which in turn, like even if you're there and you're one of those people who's like, I'm just like here to watch, it'll eventually like fun. It'll still pull you in and be like, dude, this is great. Like look at this shit. Like you're just part of that moment.
Yep.
And it brings me back to what I used to feel while performing, and it was just like, I'm just there, I'm performing, there's nothing else that matters right now. And that's like, those are the bands that like that really enthrall me, where I'm just like watching, I'm like, and then I realized like, oh, like I've been like moving too, you know, if I don't mosh or whatever, like it's like my head's been bobbing, like I've been doing shit, like, and I start realizing like, oh, like we're a part of this right now, like we're having a fun time together. And like you're right, it's entertainment. Like that's
Absolutely.
what the live part of shows is. You know what I mean? Like I get like you're recording and putting music out and doing whatever type of content. Yes, that can be, I feel like, about the music.
100%.
It's like that's like, okay, we're doing this because we're writing, we want to do this. But when you go out and play live,
cater to your audience.
It's like, hey, like I'm gonna play this and I want these people to have a good time with me, whatever genre it might be.
You do got to be careful. I've noticed, like it's sort of a give them an inch, they'll take a mile kind of situation.
Okay, what do you mean?
Like with writing music, you should always do that for yourself. In my opinion, 100%. You will not reach the audience by trying to reach them. You have to reach the audience by reaching in yourself. They'll find your story. They'll understand it. But when it comes to live, yeah, you should do pretty much any wild, bonkers, batshit crazy thing you can do, but they'll start making demands.
What?
It gets weird. Yeah, like I was, we played at originally a theater, and for the New Year's Eve thing with Element 80, and I ended up shirtless on stage, which is just not something I normally do. It's kind of weird, to be honest. No, it's a bit uncomfortable. Like I'm just like weirdly insecure anyway.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I ended up shirt off. Fight breaks out. Somebody literally bit a chunk out of somebody's fucking arm. It was nuts.
What?
Yeah, straight up chomp. And like I saw, they sent me a picture the next day on Facebook, full on bite mark out of somebody's arm.
This is a protest because you guys don't give out any more chicken sandwiches.
Right, yeah. They're fucking hungry out there in the audience. But like I got up and I put on the only coat I had on, and because it was kind of inappropriate to be walking around a venue in a cowboy hat shirtless while a big fight broke out and there's blood on the floor and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know, you got to be a little professional.
All right.
And so we're trying to get the show back on track, and suddenly everybody in the front's like, you need to take back off your jacket. You need to get naked again. I'm just like, that's a little...
You can't go around. I can't be at my office job and someone be like, hey,
get that shirt off. Like, get naked now. Like, damn, bro. Like, if
this harassment. Like,
you can put dollars on my G-string right now. I guess. Like, if that's the case, okay. I guess if that's what I'm doing, like stripping, all right. But kind of just playing the show, dude. Like, especially if it's a bunch of dudes I don't know. Like,
and they want you. They're the ones that want take your shirt off.
However you want to roll sexually is fine with me. But just know, I don't fucking know you.
You're still a stranger.
Yeah, like it's come on, man. You're not gonna walk up to me in Walmart and be like, take them off. Like, that's not, no.
What if that like became your thing and like, yes, you start like living your normal life and be like, hey, take your shirt. Hey, we want a picture. And then I think that what actually happened to, what's a comedian's name? Bert Kreischer, who literally always, that's his thing.
Yeah, take your shirt off.
And
like,
that means forever. I mean, he says that he enjoys like doing that shit.
Yeah.
But there's gotta be a point where you like meet people everywhere, and now because of the stories you've told, like everyone probably wants to get you fucked up and wants to take that picture with like the shirt off. Like, no, like if you got your shirt on, it's like, I don't want this. This is not the real thing. So like there's gotta be a balance.
Like, I'm out at dinner right now.
Exactly.
Don't ask with my family. I'll take a picture with you or something, but don't tell me to take my fucking shirt off like at your best, you know. Like I perform because I find it fun. You know, but again, part of it is a service. There's give, there's take. You know, it has to be a business that you're running. You are providing a service of entertainment.
But it's also like that's during like the set time. Like, you know, when it's over, and I'm like, okay, you kind of come out of it and just like.
Yeah, I'm a normal person again. I'm not, even then on stage, I'm still a normal person, but like, you know, now I'm out of my flow state. Just, all right, now we're cool. We're regular again. I'm going to put on my fucking clothes. You can take as many pictures with me as you want. I don't give a shit, like which has been a weird experience. I've never had people really do that, but hey, whatever.
Yeah.
They're like a small guy with a cowboy hat, I guess, so it's fun.
It works.
The whole Matthew McConaughey thing, I guess, like the shitty
Mike
Matthew
shit,
McConaughey. All right.
Magic Zalen over here, dude. But speaking,
I said that on stage. I said the law says you cannot touch, but I see a lot of lawbreakers in here tonight.
See, you're encouraging it. That's why they do it.
It's a problem. I egg it on.
It's like, hey,
it's my own fault.
Don't objectify me, but I am going to encourage you.
I'm 100% objectifiable, though. So, ladies,
But yeah, like another addition, like you have been doing like film work and stuff for quite a while. But I saw that you directed the Tocsin video, right? As far as like, is that your first actual music video that you've like?
Oh
directed?
no, I've been doing music videos for about as long as I've lived in Dallas, so almost 7-8 years now. I think something like that. Okay. Now, granted, I don't do a lot of them. Keep that in mind, but it's one of those things where I have a very bad problem of learning. If I have a talent at all, it's learning. That's it. Everything I learn applies to everything else. So my main creative outlet started with writing music, which became audio engineering, which became actually like mixing, which then became performing, which then became, well, how do I capture the performances? Well, I guess I'd probably better get a camera, which became photography, which then became cinematography, and all is an obsession because I keep learning more and more about this stuff. I have a favorite one of everything. I have a favorite cinematographer, a favorite photographer, all that, etc.
Yeah.
And they're people that I study and look up to. So when it comes time to be on the chopping block and get something done, no one can stop me. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason for doing 90% of it is, when the band comes together and we say, okay, we need to put out this song. All right, well, what's the main problem 90% of bands have? It's the promotion afterwards. Why? Well, bands get shit on. We have everything costs so much.
So much money.
And that's not a slight at anyone in particular. I had to put the chair down. I'm sorry.
I was like, are you
short?
Like...
So like I'm hunching and like
I was like, what's happening? I didn't know that you were doing it. I was like, is the chair just fall? I go, did the chair just break? And it's just like going slowly.
It's quicksand on their floor, man. You didn't know you lived in a quicksand?
I didn't know that spot. Maybe.
But I realized a long time ago that I needed to have these skills on tap, because as much as I do want to pay somebody else to do these things, because it would just greatly take away a lot of stress in my life, it would be fantastic. Again, it comes back to, okay, well, you're not writing the music I want to hear. Well, you're not making the videos I want to see. And that's arguably kind of rude. It's kind of a dick thing to be like, you're not in a position I want to be in. I'm not going to listen to you or hire you. It's like getting a tattoo. If I go and I take this beautiful picture that I say, hey, I want this tattooed on my body, and I got a guy down the street who's a scratcher in a kitchen, he's like, yeah, bro, I can do it. It's going to look like shit, but I can do it. That's a problem, because then I end up with a shitty tattoo. I'm marked with that. Whereas if I take my time and I spend the money on the person that I really want to do it, it'll get done right.
Yeah.
That issue comes up over and over again because bands have so many expenses to deal with. You've got music video expenses, the photography expenses, the show expenses in general, just getting to a show, all the gas and all the traveling and all that shit. The fact that you don't hardly get paid dick for it in the first place unless you're already signed.
Yeah.
Then your music makes no fucking money because Spotify
that's not like a revenue stream. Like,
doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Tidal, but who the fuck uses Tidal?
True.
Which I wish they would, but it's neither here nor there. It all kind of comes out in the wash. You lose everything every time just for the hope that maybe your song would catch on and kind of go like viral, if you will. And that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for the industry the way it's set up. We can't do that anymore. We can't do that.
Not anymore. Not in the environment we're in now. And then I love the fact that you see it now more than everything. All these people who are like, they want to be an artist and they're like, I'll figure it out. Like literally the same thing that you're talking about is most people who want to do something these days are just figuring out how to do it themselves because it's the easiest one. You have complete control.
Yep.
Like, you want to put something out, you put it out. Like, you want to figure out something, you want your content to look a specific way, that's on you. You learn how to do it. And fucking the internet, YouTube, whatever you want to look up.
You can learn anything.
You can learn anything. One of the things that I remember is literally a while back when I was gonna buy a camera, I was like, oh, like Zalen like those cameras and stuff. And I think I asked you, and I was like, hey, like what camera do you recommend? Like this is what I'm doing. And he's like, you're like, I think you were just like, you're like, honestly, like you're better off doing your own research. And then for a split second, I was like, this guy Rudy doesn't want to help me, and I'm like, whatever. And I go and I start looking up stuff on my own, and I'm like, oh, okay. Eventually, I realized like, oh, like now I know what I'm actually buying and why this, you know, why this camera having this matters more for this, or do I really need this? No, I don't, kind of thing. Versus someone just being like, you know what I mean? Because you were like, oh, I use this camera, and if I would have bought that one at the time that you like were saying that you used, I didn't need all that shit. And I'm like, I would have just spent a bunch of money for something I wasn't going to be utilizing just because I was looking for someone to do the work for me.
Exactly.
And after that, like, it's just spun off like little things I've learned here and there, and it's just based off like not anyone telling me. I'm like, what? And it's normally, I'm the type of guy who, like, a problem arises, like, okay, how do I fix that? Let me go learn it, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And slowly, and it wasn't until someone pointed it out to me. She's like, you know, like, because all I was doing was like vlogging, you know what I mean, doing little vlogs and stuff like that. He's like, you know, you have like a skill set now. And I was like, skill set doing what? Like these, like, there's nothing to it. Like, it's just little cuts. And like, and someone was like, I don't know how to do that. Yep. He was like, okay. And then like I started messing with other stuff, and just like it starts growing. I'm like, oh, like I want to learn this because I want to do it. And that's why like all the projects that I've been doing now are like, I like doing this already, and I might as well do something with it, like, and try to contribute. That's why like all this, like I do all of it. You know what I mean? Like all this like setup, it's nothing like too crazy hard, but I've had hurdles that I have to come up with, like, how do I fix this? How do I do that? And then it's inspires that learning like part of you, which if you have that, like, it makes you feel like you're doing something all right. It just makes you feel a lot better than like if I were to pay someone to like edit. So like right now I can't put out, normally what I tell people, like, oh, I can put out one podcast like a week because like it's time to get someone in here, and then I have to edit it, and then I have to like now create content off of that stuff. So it takes time, and I'm the only one doing it. Yes. And I'm like, okay, cool, but it's either that or like I pay someone to do it, and then maybe it doesn't get done the way I wanted it to. And I'm like, so eventually I would want someone to help out, but it's going to take someone learning us how to do it together, and then learning like, oh, okay, they can do it, and then actually get like in
learning what you want.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I can see that eventually, because I would like to do more and be able to put content. But right now I was like, this works. Like I can do this. Like I can do this on my own. I can fix all these things. And it's really cool to see bands and just artists and anyone in general like learning how to do their things on your own. That's one of the reasons why I feel like Dispositions now is a powerhouse in like that, because like you guys can do so much independently.
That's the beauty of it. The more you learn about any particular thing, anything, the better you can talk about it.
Yeah.
So in India, we're still completely open. Like, yes, I do the music videos and all that stuff. I do the mixing and all that shit. That's great. But there's not a problem with us going to somebody.
True.
As long as we all agree that person is going to be the one that's going to give us the vision, I can communicate that now. I can say, hey, I have storyboards for you here. I have a shot list. I have a gear list that I particularly think is going to get this done. How do you feel about it? What do you need from us, etc.? Because I can communicate on that level as a working professional with, say, another music video director. Because there are people out there who are just so good at it. Like, I get the job done relatively well.
Yeah.
Like, but holy shit, there are people that are magnanimous at it, like fantastic.
Yeah.
And those are people I would like to hire in the future when we have a budget that can go specifically for that, because it's going to serve a purpose, rather than what we have right now, which is a situation where we need the creative output of that video to catch viewers, to catch eyes, while still bolstering ourselves. You know, we want the music video for ourselves, for posterity. You know, I can look back on that. That is a monument to what I have done along with them, what they have done, what they helped achieve, etc. Not to mention, like, yeah, I directed it, but all those dudes, all of them, came in and put their whole fucking nuts in that shoot. That was not easy. There was no electricity in the venue. There was no... We brought fucking...
There wasn't?
Full-blown generator. We just had to wheel it in, figure it out.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was at a old abandoned train station from like the 1920s.
Holy fuck. So literally all the lights, the shots they have lighting in it, all of that is just a generator and
Those
lights
are
that you guys
our
brought?
Stage lights. We just made them look certain ways.
Yeah.
And just like took certain lights out of the equation and everything else. That's Jameson. You know,
Oh
he's the one that
gosh.
did the lighting rig research. Again, it's everything that you learn can apply to everything else. You just have to be able to.
Well, you brought something up that completely makes sense, both relatively to the first time that I recorded and the first time that we did a music video. We were unprepared for both, like, you know, to talk about what we were wanting, you know, so it's really hard. And I'm sure, like, as an engineer, like, us trying to describe what we want doesn't make sense, because there's a specific way, like, why these things are being recorded in a certain way, blah, 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 and I don't get that. And then, like, and we weren't getting it, and we kind of just butted heads a lot, because again, I don't think we had clearly the understanding that we needed to clearly state what we were looking for, what we were needing out of this. Same thing with the music video shoot. Like, I had an idea. I didn't do storyboards, and he, like, luckily he was super sweet, and he was just like, oh, you know, next time, like, we'll just shoot a storyboard, and then we'll have a little. I have these ideas, and we'll probably use these, like, places instead of, like, I probably should have sent the locations to, like, all this stuff. Like, this is what we have to work with. Can we work with this? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Have stuff ahead of time. You know, like I said, what you were saying, and it's just be able to actually clearly communicate what, like, our vision is and work together. Like, that's how you work together, instead of just blindly going with somebody and being like, that's not what I wanted, and it's like, okay, but you weren't able to communicate, like, what you wanted clearly. And then with bands, it's like, oh, okay, but you already spent the money, so you're stuck with that. Like,
Yeah.
Are you gonna re-record this? Probably not. Like,
Nope.
because that
Can't
whatever
afford
you spend
it.
on that, like, what am I gonna do? It's like, no, we're just putting that out. Like, let's just put it out, and then we'll figure it out next time. And it's good in a way, because you live and learn, and you won't do that again. Like, okay, how do we fix that?
Definitely.
But again, like, for some bands, if you spend all that money, you don't get what you want, and then it's like, okay, like,
You're just stuck
you're
with
just
it.
upset, and you're maybe just kind of slowly dwindle down and things like that. But it's cool. I like where everything's going, where most people are trying to learn how to get, like, some sort of skill set,
Yes.
on your own, and it just keeps bleeding onto, like, other stuff.
You should be doing that in general in life, in my opinion. That should be always something you're striving to learn. Like, oh shit, my faucet's making a strange noise. Okay, we'll find out why. Like, you probably just Google it, and you might be able to fix it in like 10 minutes.
And-
instead of calling a fucking plumber, like,
Who is gonna be super expensive?
yeah, and he's gonna come in and show his ass crack in your house. Like, nobody wants that. So might as well just fix it.
But yeah, it is a way of, like, living that I think, like, at a certain point, I remember I used to be like, oh, I don't have to worry about this. I'm just gonna find someone to do these things. And then the more time goes, even just, like, taking the money part out of it, it's just like, oh, I don't want to have to wait, like, for someone to come fix this, or for someone to come look at this, or
I
how
can
do
just
hook
get it
this up?
done.
I could just literally, I'm like, okay, let me look it up. And if it gets to a point where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, or I get to a point where, like, I don't have what I need to get this done, and it's that. And I was like, okay, now I can call someone and
Totally fair.
figure it out. Like, that's still the option is still there, but
Yes.
you still have the option to be like, you know what, let me take a crack at it myself, and if I can't figure it out, I can reach out for help.
And if you read up on it, then you at least have the knowledge to communicate.
Exactly,
That's the biggest part of it. And, like, now, granted, in the arts field, you, as an engineer or as a producer, you do have to take on the fact that people don't know what they're trying to articulate most of the time.
Most of the time.
But that in that disconnect breeds that creativity. That's where that lies, because you're not chasing a muse, you're letting it happen, and you're letting your interpretation influence their own interpretation for the most part. So somebody says, you know, they come to your studio, you record, you give them a mix back, and they go, yeah, but, you know, I really want it to sound more like, you know, it needs to be more solid or something. Like, I feel like it needs to be more solid. Well, what the fuck does solid mean? What, you want me to put glue on it? I don't know. But you have to interpret that. Okay, well, what are they lacking? What are they missing? And that's where the wheels start turning. You start ticking. Now, it could just be some jackwagon listening on an iPhone speaker.
Sure.
And then you have to go, what are you listening to this record on? And they go, oh, I just heard it on my iPhone. Okay. Well, that's why it doesn't sound solid. Go play it in your car. And then they do, and they go, whoa, it sounds amazing. No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people's criticisms of the art that gets output are valid because they hear a certain they have a vision of that product. And so by being able to interpret what they're saying from this abstraction that comes from their head, you're allowed to use your creativity to achieve that. And then the vision is realized at some point, hopefully, is the end goal. And then everybody's happy at the end. That's the goal of a true producer, engineer, director, anybody. You know, they should be able to take those broken pieces and go, okay, well, here's what you're actually telling me. And then you go, oh, shit, that is what I was telling you. That's the best part, when that comes together.
When you have... If you're going to take on that role, like you're saying, you will. That's a skill you're going to have to gain. You know what I mean? Because of what you're saying. Most people know how to write the music and don't know any of the other part. Like, that's why they came to you. But yes, there's got to be some sort of skill set and talent to be like, okay, like when they say this, maybe they're meaning this, and like I have to analyze it, and it's my job to try to interpret that as best as possible. Now, if you keep trying stuff back and forth and like it's not nailing it and they still can't describe it, well then that's a big disconnect, and it's like, okay, like I don't know.
Sometimes it just doesn't go.
And it just it happens. Yeah. And you do your best. I feel like, you know, on both sides you do your best, and as much as like I used to just be on one side or the other, now I'm always blending over a bit of both because of perspective. Just speaking to like people and be like, oh, like, and it's like it doesn't make sense the way you're presenting it. And like, this is what I have to tackle with, and I'm trying to help you like figure this out. I'm like, okay, so now I can kind of see it from both ends and take that into consideration. And for because at the end of the day, you're both trying to make something sound good.
Absolutely.
You know? Hopefully, like you're both like trying to make something sound good and not just someone trying to take your money.
And I'm a full on bully when it comes to this stuff. Like I'm mean, and it's kind of a problem, but like. And that's why I've stopped taking on a whole bunch of projects recently, is because I'm putting my foot down on the vision that I have with Dispo and the demos we have, etc. And we're pushing that forward. But we do work well together. Whereas if I have a client come in, I have to spend time essentially troubleshooting what they want. Whereas I can come up with a concept faster and realize it much faster than they can convey something to me. So then I'll end up being like, well, I'm going to put my handprints all over this, and it's probably going to be unrecognizable to what you originally had. Because you don't have anything finalized. Yeah. So I'm just going to punch my way through it, and it's going to get done, and it's going to be arguably either better than what you wanted, or it's at least going to come fully to fruition, regardless. And that's a bit of a problem. That's too much. There's a line you have to straddle, and I just don't straddle it anymore because I don't care. Yeah, and that kind of presents itself to be a bit much. So I don't really direct for anybody else anymore. The Dispo guys I know them well enough to communicate with them. They can get organized enough to say, we have this idea as a conglomerate. What do we need to bring it to life? And then I can go, okay, well, that's this, and this. And they go, okay, that's fine. And then that's it. The conversation over. We know what we're doing. Yeah. And we can vote on things, obviously, because we're a band. We're a unit together. Whereas individual clients come in, they're like, hey, I want a music video. Well, fuck me running, I guess. You know, what do you want in this? Do you want a multi-day location affair with a storyline attached to it and extras and actors and actresses and all that stuff? Do you want a performance video? What is your budget even? I have no idea what you want. Like, you can't just, I want it, and then deer in the headlight me. Like, I can't. What am I going to do with that? Nothing. Like, I can't. Yeah.
That's another thing, budgets. Like, understanding, and then that's one part where I had the issue. I was like, how do I, like, because there's no clear way to be like, I'd be like, oh, how much do you charge for a music video? I'm like, you can't really ask that question because of what you just said. Like, you could be like, oh, are we just doing a performance shot? Are we having it? It's going to take more than one day. Are we moving spots? Am I going to have to go like somewhere?
What's the location? What do you have?
You know? And so, like, I get it now, but before it was just like, why can't they just tell me, like, how much it is? And now it's like, oh, like, because this is all, like, it takes into account. And if it was like that, we'd be like, oh, it's this much, and then you need a whole bunch of shit you're not ready as for, and then, like, oh, okay, well, I just charged this much for something that should have been this much. You know what I mean? And that's why I get how people don't do, like, set prices on stuff like that, like music videos or anything specific. Is that especially, because that's one that I completely understand, where it's like it's gonna be difficult to find out how much. And I remember, like, when we recorded our 5-song EP, we recorded for a lot of days. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that probably should have been way more than what we actually paid, but we paid per song, and it's like, oh, not until they get done. And I realize on that end, I was like, okay, we kind of took advantage of that part. Like, they let us, like, record for a ton of days, over and over.
If, like, that's the deal that they made with you,
and they made it, and then, but I also look at it and I'm like, okay, I get how that's kind of, like, fucked up, like, on my end, and I'm like, so it's seeing that, and it's learning, and it's accepting, like, these things. I see, like, sometimes where people, like, bitch about how much somebody charges for stuff, and I'm like, that I don't get. I'm like, because you don't have to go with them. No, like, that's easy enough. It's like, or if you'll realize that once you start shopping around, like, if that type of quality stuff normally runs, like, right around that, and if you find someone that's less, then there you go. That's who you go with.
If they realize your vision, if they have a sound that you like and it costs less, good job, congrats. Yeah, I hope it works out. That's fantastic. But
yeah, like, bitching about someone's prices is just, like, the dumbest thing I can
get
think
the fuck
of.
out of here with
like,
that. Yeah.
If this is, like, literally before, like, they're quoting you, because it's like they're giving you what they're worth on it. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't, and easy. You don't have to go with them. That's as simple as it needs to be. It's like, okay, sorry, man, I can't afford that. And that's happened. Like, I've done that before, where I'm like, oh, how much is this? And they're like, oh, it's so and so, and I'm like, damn, I really want that, but I can't afford it. So cool. I'm not gonna be like, can you come down to what I actually have? I'm like, no, fuck no. I'm not gonna ask that. Like, because, like, I see the value, and because, like, getting to know more and more people. Luckily, in, like, the scene that we're in, I get to know so many people doing so many different types of jobs. Yes. Seeing the quality of work they do, and not only that, also witnessing them working on this. And I'm like, I'm not gonna doubt people's shit again. You know what I mean? One, because, like I said, I don't have to go with that, and two, like, I see them work at it.
You had the
like,
examples,
and still, even, like, messing with, like, this stuff, like, I realized, like, oh, like, this takes, it's not hard.
It's a bitch,
but
though.
I'm like, this is time consuming.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, okay, like, and I realized, I look at, like, how much work I put into stuff, and it's funny, because it's the same thing, like, when you're a band, you work so hard, and, like, there's so, like, at the beginning, there's so little payoff. Yes. And I'm like, oh, because people are like, oh, like, what are you doing for this? I was like, I don't get paid to do this. Like, I do it because it's fun. Like, but it's like, I realize hours wise, if I were to charge to do this for somebody, I'm like, oh, that'd be expensive. Like, yes. Because of, like, because I think somebody asked me, like, he's like, oh, like, I'm interested in doing, like, a podcast. Like, would you be? I was like, maybe. But I'm like, I don't have time. But I was just put the thought through my head. I was like, how much would I charge for this? I'm like, oh, I'm bringing over all my equipment, bring for them. Like, they're just gonna show up. Like, I'm going to record it. Like, after that, I have to go do editing stuff for it. I'm like, that sounds expensive. It doesn't sound worth it for the person, like, who's going to be doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, okay, yeah, that would be something where I was like, okay, I see that on my end. Like, if I were to charge for this, it's a lot. That's why right now I only do it for myself, because it's a lot of work, and I have a bunch of other projects, like, in the rug. I was like, okay, I'm just satisfied with being able to get my workout done by myself.
There you go.
And get it out as quick as possible.
I've gotten so spiteful with pricing lately. Like, people, when I started doing the 3D art and stuff, where I was just kind of posting it randomly on my Facebook.
So
and shit
fucking cool.
Thank you. That stuff is meditation to me. Like, I just sit there and I make it. There's no ulterior motive. I'm not trying to get famous off it. I'm not trying to make a career out of it. I just figured out how to do it by accident. And it was like, this is fucking awesome. So I just started doing it. Well, then the messages come in, like, bro, you could do my album art, or, like, how much is that piece? And I'm like, I don't know, $5,000. Oh, whoa, okay, yeah. That's just, if you can afford that, all right, sure, let's talk. Because you're gonna be, I know for a fact, if you're putting your shit on the table for $5,000, you know what you want. Yeah. And it's exactly what I'm doing. There's not going to be a miscommunication because you're committed. Yeah. Unless you're real dumb. Well, no, I thought you were going to draw me a Simpsons cartoon or some shit like that. Like, nah, No, that ain't what I do. But yeah, I've gotten real spiteful with pricing because that's my time.
Yeah.
I make it for me. And then it just so happens that I put it on the internet just because I can. It's my social media, so I'll let people see it. It's fine. And if something comes of that, fantastic. If it doesn't, whatever. I still got to make art.
Yeah.
So they won't bother me, though, because I'm not going to be sitting there playing 20 questions trying to figure out their design brief or whatever.
Especially with like this type of stuff you're doing, like
where it's completely abstract.
Abstract. Like, how do you... I think in that form of like, I don't know. I don't do abstract art. But for me, I'm like you're saying, it's just like kind of a cathartic, just artistic expression. And how do you do that with somebody else's interpretation? Kind of thing? Unless they're willing to be like, hey, I want this. But pretty much what they're saying is like, I want you to take the reins on it. And that's the only, I feel like that's the only way it's going to work. You know what I mean? For someone paying for that. It's like, hey, I will give you this much money and dude, like these are the ideas, go with that.
That's the one time I felt like my money was truly well spent was, and not to say other professionals I've worked with have been crooks or anything like that at all. That's never been the case. But when I did Irrelative for In Cycles and Circles, there's the artwork for that is it's a wolf in sheepskin, basically. That was hand painted by a woman named Jenna Barton. I saw her portfolio online. I loved it. I loved everything about it. So I went to her specifically and I said, how much do you charge for a single piece of artwork where I have little to no creative control? I'm going to let you essentially do whatever it is that you want to do with this prompt. And the only prompt I gave her was like, the only thing I could think of is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's the only thing I can think of. That's basically what this song is kind of related to. And it's kind of what the message it's conveying is about somebody who, you know, puts on this fake pity act and shit. So what can you do with that? How much will that cost me? And she was like, well, I'm not going to blow her prices out. But she was like, well, that's that sort of thing, X amount of dollars, as long as I have like full control to do whatever it is I want to do. And I was like, sold. Take it. Here you go. Here's the money. Do your thing. And she did it, and it was wonderful. It's one of my most like treasured art pieces because of.
So you have that somewhere?
Yeah, yeah. It's in my house. Like well, I don't have the actual painted canvas, no, but it's the fact that I own that now. That's my piece for my song.
Gotcha.
Means a ton, and it's from her. Like it was all her doing. She didn't even have to follow the prompt I gave her. I gave her that option. I was like, if you don't think that's going to give you enough to paint something, do something else.
And you know what I mean? And because you gave that control, like even if with the prompt, it's like, oh, you gave me this prompt, but it still came up with this that would have not been, maybe it wouldn't have been as literal. You know what I mean? It would have been something different. It's still, yeah, this is what inspiration I took off that prompt. Because again, everything is relative to that person's like experience. So if this triggered a memory of her childhood because of that phrase was used in that, and she ends up drawing a swing set or some shit.
Something.
You know what I mean? That's still like her, what you paid for it. Was that person's interpretation of this prompt.
Exactly that.
Do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean?
That's what I love. Like, and that came out. Even then, I gave her the lyrics to the song, which don't say anything about a wolf in sheep's clothing the whole time. But I gave her the lyrics to the song. I sent her a render of the song, and then that small prompt. I was like, honestly, you probably don't have to use any of this because the way your art is exactly what I am looking for. I know whatever you're going to do is going to convey my meaning once I assign it to it. And that's important when you're searching for somebody to work with. And if you're taking on clientele, if somebody comes to me with that kind of open-ended discussion, I will be more than willing to work with almost any budget that they have because I can spend as little or as much time on it as I want. I can spend, however much thought process as I want thinking about what it needs and what it doesn't need, and then give them what I've created. And at the end, they go, that's what I was looking for because you made it. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I can follow my vision. I let her follow her vision, etc. If you could afford to hire the professionals, that can then follow their vision because you trust them enough, that's where it gets fucking groovy. Granted, still expensive, still sucked, especially paying for it by myself. That was a kick in the knackers. But it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was truly worth it because I got exactly what I was looking for out of it, in that I didn't know what I was looking for. She knew because it was her vision. Plain and simple.
You get the art and like what they have to offer in its purest form. I think.
Exactly.
You know what I mean, like without, hey, I want it for this, but I don't need you to draw like something or paint something specifically what's in here. Like I want your art.
I'm not going to hold your hand through the whole process.
Yeah.
Just do what it is that you do because I love what it is that you do.
Yeah.
That's
so
the
it's
whole
like,
thing.
you know, it's hard to trust people like that, but that's where it takes you being able to do your research and being who are you going to be comfortable giving that type of control to.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because you, again, it all comes down to choice. You don't have to give that to everybody.
Yes.
If you go and give that control to someone who's charging the cheapest, well, then you're going to get like, you can't like be in it. But
You're shooting yourself in the foot.
if you're looking for something, and like I said, it depends on what level you're at. You can't be, if you can't, afford it and you can't do it yourself, you gotta figure it out at the level you're at, and then eventually think like, okay, I want that sort of stuff, but it's gonna take me a while to get there, but I'm not gonna stand still while, just letting like, oh, hopefully this happens one day. And like, no, like you put stuff out. That's one of the things why I tackle like any project or anything I do. It's actually when I started vlogging was my first thing. I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to start something like that. I go, and I was immediately like researching like equipment and cameras. It's like, oh, what I need. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. Like, I have a phone. Like, if I can do it with this phone and enjoy it, it's like, maybe I'll look into investing.
There you go.
And I did a few, and I'm like, I can do this. All the editing, I was like, it's a phone. Like, it's decent enough. Like, these kids are making like more with less. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm like, fuck it. Like, if I can't figure it out, then I don't want to do it. That's just plain and simple. So
there you go.
I started and did it. I'm like, figured it out. Cool. Like, what is available to me? If I really want to do it, I will figure it out. If I don't, then ideas that weren't meant for me will be weeded out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they weren't worth it because obviously I didn't put the work in to do it. Mm-hmm. Fuck. Did it again. That's mine. That's fine.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. It happened on cameras too. Damn it, I need to get a new one now. All right. Anyways, but yeah, I think that's the way you figure out exactly like what you are meant to do, what you're supposed to do. It's like, hey, are you willing to put the work in and not? You can get help from people along the way, but you should be able to figure out most of it on your own. At least figure out what you want on your own. That's the simplest thing.
And is exactly why I didn't give you a step-by-step guide to doing all this shit.
Yeah, and it honestly
exactly why
helped so much. Because honestly, I would have been like, oh, okay, and it still would have. I know myself, and I wouldn't have taken your word for it. You know what I mean? Like, I know myself to being like, oh, okay, I would still double check everything. So once I realized it, and I'm like, so what's the point of even like really asking for help here when I don't know what I'm even asking? I go, I need to figure that out first. And then like I started researching. I'm like, researching this shit is pretty easy because there's information readily available for everything. Like, I think I was testing, like, I need something to focus quickly. There's so many fucking focus tests, side-by-side comparisons of the cameras that I was looking at.
So many.
And I'm like, oh, okay, that's exactly what I wanted to know. Even if I asked somebody and be like, hey, which one focuses quicker? And you would have told me one, I'm like, well, how does he know that? And you know what I mean? Like, I would have been like, when I can literally look that out and look multiple, because I found multiple, because that was one of my main things, and I found multiple comparisons exactly specifically. I'm like, fuck, this information's just out here. And I'm like,
freely
available. Like, I'm just gonna look up everything that I need. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's fine. Like, I can find anything that I need to find somewhere.
I've kind of become like the random DFW troubleshooter dude.
Yeah.
I just get inboxed all the time like, yo, dude, hey, my shit's kind of fucked up in this thing. Like, what do I need to do? And I'll spend time figuring shit out with people because sometimes you got to help folks. I mean, I can't sit there and just be like, I don't know, figure it out when I probably do know.
Yeah.
So I will help people. But when it comes to such general recommendations like that, my day job is troubleshooting. That's what I do all day. People fuck their computers, and I unfuck them all day. And it sucks, and it's terrible. And a lot of the times, it's me in a much nicer way, saying you're an idiot, and here's why, and here's proof to back it up.
Yep.
Which sucks,
Yeah.
but you do kind of got to drop the ball on some people sometimes. It's like you're doing this wrong because you're not paying attention, or you're not learning. You're just going through motions. So when people come to me with general questions, very open, broad-ended questions like, hey, what do I need to get started with a podcast? I have no fucking idea what you need. You know, I can make some recommendations. I can tell you what I use personally with my stuff, but you're going to want to figure it out. And you did just that.
And you
then not
figure
only
it out, and
that,
you get it done the way that you want. You know what I mean? Because like, it's like, oh, let's say you give me your whole list of recommendations. Well, that's for what you want to do, like what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not what I need. Again, like the example that I was like, if I would have bought that camera that you were happen to be using, I was like, I would have bought a camera that I didn't need.
And you'd be probably not have 2 cameras to be able to make a multicam view.
So like, and figure
that.
out like now I'm like, oh, okay, I can do these things. I was like, what do I need next? And I'm like, oh, okay, I need audio stuff. Let me look that up myself. And like, which mic is going to be not only like, I didn't even look like, it's not like, oh, what's the best mic out here? I was like, for me, I was like, what's the most convenient one? What's the easiest thing that I can set up where I can set it up? Like, where I can do all these things and just go with this. And I'm like, oh, okay, found these. And I'm like, this works. Easy setup. I can pick it up quick. I can take it mobily if I ever need to, like, move it out. Like, that was my thing because I was going out to these places and I was having to mess with an interface and do all these things. I'm like, so
it's a nightmare.
Solving my problems based on my specific form, not based on, like, what someone's like, oh, maybe someone's like, oh, you can use these type of, you know, mics and stuff, but they have a stationary thing that doesn't move.
Yeah, it's all built into their house or whatever.
Exactly.
You know,
So figuring out what works for you and doing your own research just is always going to be the best option. And then reaching out for actual help once you know what you're talking about.
There you go.
Then that's fine, because I'm not saying like, oh, don't ask anybody anything. You know what I mean? Like, you can reach out for help, but like if my camera all of a sudden did something and I could not for the life of me figure it out, I'm like, you know what, maybe like Lena knows what I'm like this means. Maybe shoot you a quick message, be like, oh, this is, then you probably just answer right back, this probably means this, and I'd still be like, okay, cool. It just give me a spot. I wouldn't want you to fix it. I'd be like, oh, okay, that gives me a spot. Now maybe take another angle. Yeah,
exactly.
Like, okay, tackle another angle.
And that's totally fair, and I'm into that. I love doing that. Like if I can help somebody out of a small jam where they're stuck, they don't really know what they're trying to get, or they don't know how to get to where they're trying to get, but they've done at least enough to like try. Okay, I have no problem doing that. I have no problem helping out anybody at that point, because that, you know, you've done what you can do.
Yeah.
Jonathan Flores hit me up recently and was like, hey, I can't get this VST to show up in my Reaper plugins, and I was like, all right, we're gonna do some shit. Now I'm gonna kind of break your shit to an extent, but if you listen to me, it will work, kinda. And it did. It got him through, and you know, it shout out Unity.
Shout out.
And it got to working now. So like at least he's moving forward now. He's able to proceed. That's fine. I can get paid for that, but I don't mind because he's a homie. He needed help. Cool. Let's fucking figure it out. Easy. Because he's already done the research enough to get the program installed. He's already relatively well versed enough to try things. He just couldn't get it to work. Okay, cool. That's fine. Let's have some mercy here. Let's fucking figure this out. Let's put our 2 brains together, which is better than one.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
It's just, it all comes down to effort. Like, have you actually gave it an effort to fix this?
Yes.
And not just like, hey, this isn't working. Well, what's going on with it? It's like, I don't know. Like, it's just not doing what I need it to do. I'm like, okay, then that's immediately I'm just like,
not what I
am I
need.
gonna fix that shit? Like, I'm not gonna go over there and like run through everything. I was like, no, like if
not
you didn't at least
it.
give it an effort, like then no, you're not gonna get help. But you know, I think I like the way you manage like everything. I think the aspect of learning, and I I do thank you for that. Like literally that little push initially. I always remember that. I'm like, oh, it's literally led me to do my own research, and now like I've been able to like do projects and things like that I at the time would have probably like not thought that I could do. And literally it was just off a little, you know what, figure it out myself. And it literally, I never, just like for a split second, I was like, man, like I wish you would have helped me. But then after that, I realized immediately the value in it. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like once I started looking stuff up, and I'm like, now I know this. Now I didn't base it on someone else telling me this. Like it's based on like actual shit that I looked up, and it it also was more gratifying. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, now when I get shit done, it's like, oh, that's because I figured that shit out, and like I'm more proud of like what I like made and like accomplished. So
let's be clear, I'm not some kind of guru or something like that. I am still just a dick for the most part.
He's a savant. He's a sleep token moderator.
Yeah. Oh God.
You got it. Oh, I wanted to get one of them rings, but they sold out.
Oh, in a minute.
In a minute?
In a minute.
Oh my God.
That's nuts. Which I expected. I mean, it was going to be low quantity,
yeah.
And with their rabid fan base, like who'd have thought? But like 50 of them shits, yeah, in under a minute.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, but back to what we're talking about, like it. Yeah, I give people a push, and that's from learning from other people how to do that. People like Rick Rubin, producer, legendary producer, basically helped bring hip hop into the limelight of the world, and to bring people like LL Cool J on to truly monumental records that started huge swaths of hip hop all over the world and things of that nature, and huge movements to bring that into the limelight. He didn't. That's the way I'm trying to phrase it. It's about leading people to make the decisions themselves, not to inhibit it by putting my walls around it, by putting my parameters on it. Exactly what you said. Like, I could have given you a list of everything, but that I wouldn't be truly helping you. It would just be satiating a question. That's it. I would just be answering your question. I would not be leading you, and that's not what I want to be known for. I don't want to be a guy that somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, how do I do this thing? And then I give you a full like gear recommendation and tell you exactly how to do something. I want you to learn it, because if you learn it, you can outgrow me, and I can learn from you.
That's the thing right there. It's like, if you completely shape everyone to your way of doing things, your way of thinking, that there will be no progress ever. Like, literally, if that's the way the world worked, we'd be stuck like where we started, But it takes somebody taking what somebody else did, learning from that, learning from over here, and be like, you know what? Maybe that's not the only way to do stuff. And then creating shit. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
We're flying through the air. I took my first flight last year.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I saw that. Yeah.
And I was flying through the air, and I'm just like, I'm in a metal box right now, flowing through the damn sky.
I'm in a tin can, boys.
Weren't we cavemen at one point?
Yeah.
How the fuck does this happen?
And realistically, we haven't been flying for that long.
Yeah. But I looked at him like, that's crazy. Like, it's just like these little moments where like I don't think we take them into the fact, because they just like are normal. We like were born into this, and then like you take a moment to look at progress, but it takes people challenging themselves and challenging the current ideas. I mean, maybe you give me the exact standard, everyone's using this now, and I'm like, what if I use this? Who knows how that pans out? But maybe that's how like something progress. Or then I really realized like, no, that's why they don't do that.
Well, I fucked up. Yeah.
But like these all take just experimentation. It takes you trying. It takes you not being afraid of making mistakes, because they're gonna fucking happen. Like,
exactly.
They always happen, and there's no way to avoid them. And I feel like that topic keeps coming up, but like it does. People need to fail. People like will fail, and you can't stop. That's what stops a lot of people. We were talking about that, I think I was talking with DJ, where it's like a lot of people don't try because they're scared, like, oh, what if it doesn't work out? I'm like, yeah, that's always a possibility in everything you do. Doesn't matter how sure you are of something like working.
100%.
Like, there's always the possibility of you failing, and that's fine. Like,
everything can shit the bed.
Yeah.
Every time.
Everything. But what you learned, what you experienced during that's not going anywhere.
Yep.
That's going to be stuck with you. And if you try something different, you will have all of that to work on it. And I feel like that's worth it.
The first In Cycles and Circles album we put out, so it was the only one, 12 whole-ass songs. First of all, local bands, don't do that. It's fucking stupid. Just don't. You're dumb. If you do it, plain and simple, you're an idiot. But
you're an idiot.
Like, nobody wants to. I'm sorry, nobody except for maybe one or two rabid fans that you might have want to listen to a whole fucking album from a local band. Whittle it down to your best 4 to 5 songs, if even that, maybe 3, and then put them out.
I feel that.
Put your whole body into those songs. Good to go. But anyway, we we had done a single with a dude who I'm not going to name because I'm actually still friends with him, but he just had a situation go on. But we did a single with a dude, and he crushed it. It was amazing. It was literally professional level. It was exactly that thing I was talking about earlier. I pay you because I know you got what I want. And, we paid a decent amount of money for it, and it was kick ass. Well, comes time to do the whole record. Well, he was technically still an amateur at that point, as was I. He was a bad songwriter and all that shit. But I was engineer capable enough to send him the materials needed to be able to mix the songs. So we paid him $1,000 up front, and we had another $1,000 coming for him upon completion. He sends us the record back, and it's fucked. Like there's stuff that's completely out of line and stuff that's not on time at all. Tempos got changed somehow, which none of that was the case when I sent it. Like I made triple sure, I quintuple checked everything to make sure that it would import. I went so far as to download a demo version of the same DAW he was using to make sure that when I drag and drop shit, it was popping up exactly as it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Everything was in order. There was nothing out of place. It all should have gone just as simple as he imports the stems or downloads them, reamps them the way he wants, finished. Or just mixes it and then finished. Easy. He was going through something at the time, had a bit of a mental fallout, and the record never came back. Like it did, but it was fucked up.
Yeah.
To a point where we literally could not release it. And we had set a due date. Local bands do not set due dates unless you have masters in hand and everything is completed. Do not set a due date for anything, ever, at all. Even if you're on a professional label, they won't do that. Don't do it. Anyway, it was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. So we had a due date coming up, and we had a premiere that had to happen for a music video, and we still didn't have a final render of a song to put on there. And I said, okay, fuck it. Here we go. And as a amateur mix engineer, I sat down and I mixed that whole record in one night, all 12 songs in the same session.
Oh my God.
And I beat the shit out of it. Now, I didn't have good monitoring at this point in time. I didn't have an actual studio, as you'd call it. I was just guessing on some Yamaha monitor stuck on a fucking table and some headphones. And I would take it, render songs out, and I'm also doing this on a all-in-one computer that I happen to have from like 2012.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was terrible. Windows 7 just barely putting along is bad. I took it, and I also didn't have internet in my apartment at the time. So I would take the songs, listen to them as best I could, make my educated guesses, take them out to my truck, which actually did have a fantastic audio system in it at the time, and listen there and reference. So I'd listen, and I'd listen to records I really love and compare it and be like, what am I missing? And then I'd go back upstairs and do it again. I did this all night until I finally got it passable. And I was like, that's as good as I can do with the tools that I have. And then we put that shit out. It still sounds bad. It does. But it's better than what we had gotten back. It is a testament to learning. It's a testament to shit going wrong and just fucking dealing with it. And I'm still proud of it. Still sounds like ass.
Yeah.
And I still won't go out of my way to show anybody, be like, listen to this album, because it's a bunch of riff salad, quite frankly. It's bad songwriting, except for a couple of parts. But it's a testament to being able to just figure shit out, find out, and then apply that. And now I have that skill. That skill will never go away.
Yeah.
And I can apply that to anything else. And now, when I know what I'm talking about, when it comes to hiring somebody else, fantastic. I don't have to guess anymore. It's like, you're an engineer. I know exactly what it is that you do for the most part, give or take some maybe secret sauce you might use, I guess, in certain situations. But I can pretty much tell you exactly how your session's going to go. So here's what I'm giving you for that. You do it. And then they do it. Done and done.
Easy enough.
All because I learned. That's my big takeaway from 90% of that.
That's the big takeaway from this whole thing, man. Live and learn. Like, I need to learn that this camera overheats. So I don't know why I keep pointing at it because people can't see me. I'm just gonna put a picture of me.
That's fine.
That'll work.
But
Plus,
you made it work.
It made it work. We did it. You know what I mean? We're still doing it, and it's a podcast. Listen to it. But thank you, dude. I feel really, really inspired today. And it's like, again, it's just one of the reasons why I like doing this is because I get moments like this where I'm realized like you're like, yeah, like a lot of the shit that like sometimes you go through and you're like, fuck, this is real shitty right now. And then you realize what you take away, like no one can take away from you, which is that learning, that experience, and realizing that like next time that tries to fuck with you, it might still knock you over, but you'll get to pick yourself back up a little quicker and be like, or handle it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like not,
You don't get pushed off your vision. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like if you have a vision, you should follow it just savagely. Like with no remorse, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. That can get you in trouble.
Sure.
I'm kind of a dick, like I said. Some people don't like me. I've even gotten in trouble with Dispo before for throwing my dick around. Mm-hmm. But I have a fucking vision. I'm going to pursue it. If you cannot keep up, get bent. And that's a bit of a problem for some people. But when you supplement your own vision with results, then nobody can. Fuck's anybody gonna do?
Yeah.
What are they? Well, I just don't like that you actually did it. Fucking, I don't give a shit. Like I did it. So eat my dick. Like
I don't like the way you're doing this. It's like, yeah, but I did it. It's my shit. Like, and then they did it the way like
it
needed to be done.
Exactly.
Like, and yeah, like people, it's easier. It's much easier to pursue that stuff, and it's literally what I don't know where I heard, but it was like once you figure out what you want, your vision, like everything you do from then on should be in service and purpose of that. Like, so figure it out. Whatever you need to do to figure this out is what you need to be doing. Yep. Not waiting for it to fall out of the sky. Not waiting for, hey, maybe I'll meet someone that'll help me take this to whatever. No, how can I do it? And then you realize like maybe I do need to meet this person or I do need this person. Blah blah blah. Because shit takes teams. Sometimes,
that's the big thing. Yeah, like when you go and you follow your vision aggressively, it generally leads you to the people that you need for it anyway. I've found.
Yeah,
it's a weird river effect where like you're sitting there trying to swim upstream with all this other bullshit, with all these people trying to chatter in your ear and do everything else, this, that, and the other, and trying to influence what you already know. You just stop. You let the current drag you. And yeah, you're going to bump the bank a few times, but you're going to end up passing by who you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And either it's just in passing and you realize, well, maybe I didn't really need them, or they end up jumping in the river with you. Like that's kind of been how it's been with Dispo. Like it granted, again, I've butted heads with a little bit and stuff like that. Just coming from being basically an only child, if you will, technically. Basically being an only child to being able to much better facilitate group functionality and stuff like that. You know, we're all kind of going down the river together. And if at some point, I kind of hope this isn't the case, but if at some point in the future they need to go to a different part of the river, okay, that's fine. I still learned. Mm-hmm. I still have all these things I can take with me. I can still make art. Yep, I would rather not, because I have a lot of fun with these dudes. Yeah. And it's quite a bit of it's a fucking hoot and a half playing shows with them. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like we have something special happening. But for the most part, we have effectively climbed in the raft together. We are going down that flow because we met each other. We didn't fight against it. We weren't trying to aggressively force any one person to do any one thing. We just kind of do shit, you know, and then we meet the people we need to meet, and there's a lot of we thrown around. That's another big thing. Is like it's a whole lot of we and a lot less I. Yeah. And it becomes more and more that each time we put something out, that's kind of important for me mostly because I'm a bit of a narcissistic asshole. But it still grows continually, and we still continue to strive to get this vision to move, because we all have the same vision relatively. Mm-hmm. And we found it by floating on the river with each other. They hit me up, and like I had turned, not to say I'm some kind of in-demand pariah or some bullshit, because that's not the truth, but I had offers because people know I'm a fucking lunatic. Like, that's the big thing. It's like, oh, well, he's a performer. Well, yeah, I'll give you that. You know, like, that's the one thing I will say. I'll fucking throw it down on stage. But I've had a bunch of people hit me up over the years in that big break where I didn't play any shows after ICIC kind of disbanded. And they were like, you know, you want to join my band? You know, you want to set up? How do you want to do this? And it's like, no, because I know I'm going to be fighting you the whole time. I know I have a vision, and you're not where I want to be. And that's a bit rude, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And the Dispo guys came and approached me and were like, hey, how would you feel? And after seeing them live, knowing that they put in the work for their performances, they are not scared to figure out a light rig. They're not afraid to run tracks. They're not afraid to run without tracks. They're not afraid to, you know, actually put on a show and just give it the guts. That's somebody I could float down the river with. So I hop in. And sure enough, we swimming.
We're swimming, yeah.
We swimming.
Swimming. You guys are going to be swimming for a while. And hard and fast. You guys have been playing a lot of stuff. I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited, especially after hearing the first single. And it sounds... I just, like, am looking forward to what this new, like, shit is going to sound like.
Don't expect anything.
I don't know what... That's the cool thing, is that I don't know what to expect.
Any
after
genre.
hearing it first, I'm like... I know Zalen enough how, like, your ideas have been crazy, because you've just been, like, doing shit that you want to do. And I'm like, once you have a person that does that in a project like this, I'm like, I don't know what the next one's going to sound like. It's not going to... Maybe it won't sound like that. Like,
it's going to be weird.
You know, like... But I think once you unlock that in yourself, like, it's scary, because then you're like, I can do whatever I want. I can play shows with whoever. Like,
exactly. Yeah,
that was one of the things that Ethan was like, you know what? We just want to be able to play shows with whoever.
With
like,
anybody.
Just anytime. And
why sequester yourself?
Yeah.
Why be... You know, and granted, I understand if you do something well, I get that. Don't be stupid. Don't... Like, let's say we were the best deathcore band in the nation or whatever. Like, why would we just suddenly... only do country? No, we're good at deathcore. We're not throwing that away.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely talk of just evil, heavy songs still in the works. Like, we're definitely doing that. It's gonna happen. And I can do weird, funny vocal stuff that's heavy as fuck. Why not? We should do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like a little bit of country.
I know.
And we're
I've been hearing some.
We're gonna be working on some Western hits, if you will.
Some Western hits from the old West.
George Strait, I'm coming for that crown.
All of Zalen's exes live in Texas, and I don't know. I'm just gonna end it talking like this.
That's actually true.
I don't have a good one.
All my exes do live in Texas.
Do they?
Yeah.
Damn.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you.
I'm glad to be here.
We got through it. We did some inspirational shit. We heard some funny stuff, and it was cool. I feel like we always see each other in passing and stuff like that, and that's what I like about this. Because, like, when do you know what I mean? Yeah. So this is, like, selfish for me, because I was like, oh, I get to literally sit some of these people down, like, and, like, my friends that, like, are my friends, but, like, now we actually get to talk about shit, like, that we don't have time, like, when we see each other at shows and stuff. But appreciate you coming by. Excited for everything you're working on. You're working on a ton of stuff. I'm sure everyone's excited as well.
I'm excited to see you grow this.
We're
I mean, you're slowing and going. It's still going, and that's fun. Beautiful.
That's the thing. Like I was saying, it's fun. I like doing it. I feel it feeds a good sense of me. I get to use my skill sets, and I've always had like a skill set for talking, and this adds. I think I was bringing up earlier. I was like, with another friend, I was like, this gives me just more perspectives to keep my own growth going, personal growth, and like learning how to tackle things.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And so I get to agree with people. I get to disagree with people and stuff.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's both equally helpful, like in my life. But it's great. Glad you came by. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for watching the part that I was on camera. The rest of it, you got to see this man. I might put a picture of me up there. Nah, nothing but Zalen.
Please, God, not just me. Oh, fuck.
I'll flip back and forth. I'll just put a generic picture of myself. But thank you for listening. Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. Go look up Dispositions. They just released Tocsin. They got a few more singles I've heard in the works coming up soon. And go to a show and fucking
rage out. Watch a small cowboy be an asshole.
Take a pool noodle.
Yeah, bring anything that's non-violent, but you can hit people with.
Don't ask Zalen to take his shirt off. All right.
Yeah,
unless he
keep
wants
that to the minimum. I'll do it if I feel like it. Okay. If I had a lot of Taco Bell that day, I'm gonna have a gut going on. No, I can't be. No, you don't want to see that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You know, you undress to your own comfort level.
That's right.
All right.
I'll take off my pants before I take off my shirt. God damn it.
Woo! And that's what we ended on. Thank you for listening. See you guys.